Hey guys, Mike here. This video is going to be going over how to make a range card. We have several different ways we can make a range card. They all serve the same purpose, and I'm going to talk through some of the different ways we do it and how we actually go about filling it out and what the components of it are. So what a range card really is just a sketch or diagram of terrain and area that you're covering with a weapon with firing data so you can rapidly engage targets based off of reference points. So what the components to this range card are: we have this area right here for our sketch. We have an area for marginal information and some other sections for identifying information. The first thing we do is we'll start off with our sector. So we give ourselves lateral limits, left and right, for the area we want to focus on. We can use everything in here if the terrain and the situation permits. But if, let's say, for example, I was a hunter and I have a highway off here or some town off here, I might give myself lateral limits so that I don't overcross that and engage a target where my round can go off and cause harm somewhere else. So we'll start with our sector. And these are usually dotted lines. Starting off from the dot in the sector sketch. Alright, that dot being our position. And with these, we can either generally we want to have a compass or something that we can use to get a azimuth off of. So we'll say this is my right lateral limit. We'll say it's 45 degrees. This is my left lateral limit. And we'll say it's 320 degrees. Alright, we'll say direct north is exactly the way I'm facing. And another method we can use is, if we don't have a compass to get degrees and directions, is if there's something I can see along that line, either on the horizon or something in between, that I can draw on there. So let's say on this side I have a little rocky outcropping here. And on this side I have one lone tree by itself that pretty much anyone can come out and see and know that, okay, that one tree is the other lateral limit. Prominent terrain features. So when you're doing a topographical section like this with these concentric circles, and topographic just means as I'm looking down on the earth like I'm looking at a map. We also have panoramic, where this would be blank and I would just draw it as I see it, like as if I just took a picture of the area and it's on there. But this is topographic, so I'm going to be drawing the prominent terrain features like I would see them on a map. So if I had a hill up here, I would draw lines. That'd be like the base of my hill, and these lines go at intervals until I get to the very top. Then I have a spur on this side. And I have another small hill over here. With the circle representing the top. Now through my sector, we'll say I have a stream, which on a map is usually a line with little dots in it, and then it continues. Alright, and then through this side I have a road. And roads are usually parallel lines, and they'll be dotted or solid. So I'm going to draw solid lines. It's an improved road. And we have a bridge where that road crosses the stream. Now, over here, we'll say I have just a few buildings. we'll say it's a farm with a little vineyard. And over here we'll say I have a little guardhouse or something on one side of the bridge, whatever you want to put. Doesn't have to be military related. You can use this as a hunter or as a shooter. I've made a range card just because I went to an actual established built gun club shooting range and it was a bunch of steel placed out. So I ranged all the steel. I kind of drew the terrain features and I put the steel targets on there and the range to all of them just so it'd be quick and easy to use it. And me and my buddy can use it so he's not always asking me for my rangefinder or what target is what distance or whatever. And that's basically one of the big things about these range cards is I draw all this, I put all this information on here, but someone else can look at it too and say, okay, I see what that is, I look at the data, I get the range to it, whatever. Orientation diagram, alright. So again, if someone else wants to use this area or use this range card, I take a terrain feature or something prominent that's easily identifiable and I get a direction to it and a distance from my position. And I'll go, and usually it's something behind me. So we'll say behind me on my left side, I have a water tower. And the direction to it is 270 degrees. And the distance to it is 150 yards. Now, when I start doing all this, I want to figure out what the maximum effective range that I can engage is, and that's how I want to base the distance of these circles here. So they don't have to be meters, they can be yards, but we'll say that each one of these is 100 yards. And that's how I got that, and I got the distance there, so it's right between 1 and 200, 150 yards for that circle. And I should be doing that first, so that I know the distance of the terrain features and how far they actually are from me to make this more to scale as possible. Alright, so we start with our TRPs. So I can either start from left to right, right to left, however you want to do it, it doesn't matter, just put them in order somewhat. I want to make this my first TRP, this vineyard here. So I'm going to draw a line straight to it. And at the top, I'm going to put a number 1. Alright, my next TRP will be the bridge. Number 2. And we'll say this hilltop along the lateral limit is number 3. Then after we get all of our TRPs, we'll start filling in all the marginal information. Or before we do that, we'll do dead space. So what dead space is pretty much anything you can't directly see with your eyes and engage with your weapon by directly firing at it. So you generally behind terrain features, behind buildings, we'll have dead space. And the way we draw that is we just draw a line around the area that gives us dead space. We put a line through it. So I have dead space behind this finger here. I have some dead space behind these buildings. And on pretty much, we'll say, the back side of this hill right here. I have some dead space. And that's how we'll draw that. When we do range cards as well, it's best to do it in pencil or something you can erase with so you can always refine it later. Start with the marginal information here. We got the position identification. So off of this, if it was on a prominent terrain feature like Hill 345 or something like that, you can write that in there. Or I'll just do the grid based off the map I'm using. So we'll use grid zone designator, 2-letter code, the 100,000 meter square identifier. If you watch my video, Introduction to Land Ag, you'll know what that is. And then the grid. 8-digit grid will get you within 10 meters of the position. A 5-digit grid would get you within 1 meter. A 3-digit or a 10-digit grid would get you within 1 meter, and a 6-digit grid would get you within 100 meters. So 8-digit grid is about the biggest I want to go. Date and time. Let's say it's February 15th, for example, and the time that I've made the card, military time, whatever time you want to use, we'll say it's 3 p.m. This little section here, I'll generally write the caliber or what weapon I'm using. If it was a military range card, I'd write the weapon system. I'm just going to write that it was a M700 using my Remington, and it's in 7.62. Alright, each circle 100 yards. Then I go to my target reference point. So I have 3. Okay. Now direction, deflection. Direction will go with an azimuth to it with a compass. And the deflection is based off of crew serve weapons that are mounted on tripods, or like a mortar that's mounted on a bipod or something, where it has a mil scale and you have a slide that goes along it that's connected to the weapon. So when you slide that along that bar, it goes on a certain mil, and that gives you direction downrange. But since I'm using a rifle, I'm just going to use direction. So TRP1 will say it's 350 degrees. And for deflection, I'm just going to put a baseline wind adjustment. So what I'll do is I'll give a 10-mile-an-hour wind to that particular position. So with that 10-mile-an-hour wind, I can actually read the wind, and based off that 10-mile-an-hour wind, give a correct windage for the conditions. So this target, we'll say, is about 450 meters or yards. Alright, so for 450 yards, my 10-mile-an-hour wind correction is going to be about 3 minutes of angle, or about 1 mil. So I'm going to go with mils since I like to use mils. Alright, for a 450 yard shot, my elevation is going to be about 2.8 mils up. Ammunition, you can put different ammunition types for different target reference points if you plan on engaging it with different types of ammunition. That's more of a military consideration. Like if I had armored vehicles or something coming across the road, I would want to use armor-piercing ammunition. If I have an area where a lot of troops can come through, I'd just use regular ball ammunition. But for this example, I'm just going to use match ammo, M118. And I'll use that for all my reference points. And for description, I'm just going to put vineyard. And we'll do the same thing for all the target reference points. So number 2, the bridge. We'll say that's directly north, so we'll go 0 degrees. It is at 400 yards. So my windage for that will go with 0.8 mils. Elevation 2.2. Bridge. And the hilltop, number 3. Got 550 yards. It's right on our lateral limit, which is 45 degrees. And for 500 yards, I'm going to go with 1.2. Say 1.2 mils is our 10 mile an hour wind call. And the elevation is 3.2 mils. careful when you use terrain features for your TRPs. If it's a very broad, wide hilltop, to get an exact range off of something off of that, or give a reference off of that to a target that's not exactly on the hilltop is a little more difficult. Remarks. So in the remarks I might make a legend saying the dotted line with the dashes is a stream, the parallel line's a road, this little square with all the boxes in it is a vineyard, etc. That's a rocky outcropping, that's a tree by itself. I might write a little legend in the remarks, whatever else I feel like I need to put in there. And that's pretty much making the range card. So from here, within my sector, I can divide into subsectors if I wanted to, either just make 3 equal cones, or I can divide the sectors, the subsectors, by the terrain feature. So this spurt would be Zone 1, Zone 2, Zone 3, and the big flat valley in between can be Zone 4. However you want to do it. And however it's easy to talk on to another person. So if I'm using this range card as an observer and shooter, if I'm the observer, I can say Zone 4, which is this valley, TRP 1, and from there, I know the range of the TRP. So if I have a target anywhere near it, I can give a lateral and a range adjustment based on yards, mils, whatever I want to do. So if I'm looking through a spotting scope and I see a target, he looks like he's about 2 mils in front of it, I can go off of that, or I can go by range. So if I have a target that's 20 yards in front of it, all right, well I know this vineyard is at 450 yards. If the target's 20 yards in front of it, I know my range is 430. I can get set up and get ready to take the shot. And left to right as well. So vineyard, I go left 20 yards. If I'm using angular units of measure like mils or minutes, that makes a little more sense going laterally, because now I have to try to estimate what mils equal, if the mils equal how many yards. But if I said just 20 mils left in my reticle, I can go left 20 mils of that target and I can see it there. And that's pretty much how you're going to use it. So the target doesn't have to be actually on the reference point. The reference point is just something that you can look to really quickly and go off of. Now, if you don't have a nice range card like this, basically we would just draw the sketch, and on the line to the target reference point, on one side I would put the actual direction and the wind call, and the other side I would just put the range. And that's how you would do that. So that's basically it for range cards. I wanted to gear this video more towards just the individual with a rifle or weapon system rather than a military unit where all these range cards would merge into one big defensive fire area. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll try to get more videos out soon.